Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you real for a minute. I've lived long enough, failed enough, and learned enough to tell you this truth without sugarcoating it. Detachment is the ultimate power move. Not anger, not revenge, not proving a point. Detachment. See, most people think power comes from holding on tight to people, to situations, to expectations, but real power comes when you can let go without losing yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that took me years of mistakes, setbacks, and hard lessons to understand. Detachment is not weakness, it is emotional mastery. And emotional mastery is one of the highest forms of power you can ever develop in your life. See, weak people react to everything. Strong people choose what deserves a response. Powerful people don't let emotions run their life, they run their emotions. Most folks think being strong means holding on no matter what, holding on to people who disrespect you, holding on to situations that drain you, holding on to expectations that keep breaking your heart. But that ain't strength, that's fear dressed up as loyalty. Real strength is knowing when to loosen your grip and still stand tall. Real strength is being able to walk away without falling apart. Detachment means you don't let external situations control your internal peace. Somebody can disagree with you, doubt you, ignore you, or walk away from you, and you still remain centered. You still remain solid. You still remain you. That's mastery. That's discipline. That's growth. Because when you're emotionally mastered, nothing can shake you unless you give it permission. See, emotional chaos is expensive. It costs you focus. It costs you energy. It costs you sleep. It costs you clarity. And the worst part? Most of the things you're emotionally stressed about are completely out of your control. You can't control how someone feels about you. You can't control whether they stay or leave. You can't control whether they appreciate you or take you for granted. So why hand your power over to things you cannot control? Detachment teaches you how to observe without absorbing. You see what's happening, but you don't let it infect your spirit. Somebody can act funny, switch up, or show their true colors, and instead of reacting emotionally, you simply take notes. You don't argue, you don't beg, you don't try to prove anything, you just adjust your position. That's grown folks' behavior. A lot of people are tired because they're emotionally undisciplined. They let every comment bother them, every delay frustrate them, every disappointment break them down. But when you master detachment, you stop living at the mercy of other people's actions. You understand that your peace is your responsibility, not your partner's, not your friends, not your boss's, yours. Detachment doesn't mean you don't love. It means you love without losing yourself. It means you give without emptying your cup. It means you care without attaching your worth to the outcome. You stop loving from a place of fear and start loving from a place of confidence. You know who you are, and you know you'll be okay no matter how things turn out. Let me tell you something. Emotionally mastered people don't rush. They don't panic. They don't force. They allow they allow things to reveal themselves. They allow people to show their intentions. They allow life to unfold without trying to control every detail. And because of that, they move with clarity instead of confusion. When you detach, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift right there changes everything. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming a student of life. And life teaches the strongest lessons to those who are calm enough to listen. Some of y'all react emotionally because you're scared of losing people. But let me tell you the truth. Anyone you have to chase, convince, or beg to stay is already gone. Emotional mastery helps you accept that without bitterness, without anger, without resentment. You don't need revenge when you have self-respect. You don't need closure when you have clarity. Detachment is choosing dignity over desperation. It's choosing peace over proving a point. It's choosing self-control over emotional chaos. And let me tell you something else. When people realize they can't control you emotionally, they either respect you or remove themselves. Either way, you win. You see, the moment you stop reacting is the moment you start leading your life instead of surviving it. You stop letting your emotions hijack your decisions. You stop saying things you regret. You stop making choices out of fear, loneliness, or anger. You move slower, smarter, and stronger. Emotional mastery doesn't come overnight. It's built every time you choose silence over argument, every time you choose patience over impulse, every time you choose peace over pride. And each time you do that, you gain more control over your life. When you master detachment, you don't feel the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't try to convince folks of your worth. You let your consistency speak. You let your character speak. You let your growth speak. And the beautiful thing about emotional mastery is this: once you have it, nobody can take it from you. Not rejection, not loss, not disappointment, because you understand that emotions are tools, not masters. And when you master your emotions, you master your life. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this plain and clear because somebody needs to hear it today. The moment you stop chasing, you stop bleeding your power. Chasing people, chasing validation, chasing attention, chasing approval. That is one of the fastest ways to drain yourself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And most people don't even realize how much of their life force they're giving away just trying to be chosen. See, chasing feels like effort, but it's really desperation in disguise. It's waking up checking your phone to see if somebody replied. It's replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said too much or not enough. It's adjusting who you are just to fit into somebody else's comfort zone. And every time you do that, you lose a little piece of yourself. That's the bleeding I'm talking about. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Anything you chase runs faster. People included, opportunities included, respect included. The more you chase, the more you signal that you don't believe you're enough on your own, and the world responds to what you believe about yourself. If you act like you're disposable, people will treat you like you are. Chasing puts you in a position of imbalance. One person has all the power, and the other one is constantly reaching, constantly waiting, constantly hoping. And hope without self-respect is dangerous because it makes you tolerate behavior you should walk awa. Why from? It makes you excuse inconsistency. It makes you accept crumbs and call it love. Some of y'all aren't heartbroken. You're power drained. You've been pouring into people who never poured back. You've been showing up where you weren't celebrated. You've been explaining your worth to folks who never planned to value it. And every time you chase, you tell yourself a lie that if you just do a little more, give a little more, wait a little longer, things will change. But listen to me carefully. People don't change because you chase harder. They change when they value you, and that can't be forced. When you stop chasing, something uncomfortable happens at first. Silence, distance, uncertainty. And that's where most people panic and run back to old habits. They double text, they over explain, they lower their standards because silence feels like loss. But silence is not loss. Silence is information. It shows you exactly where you stand. See, chasing keeps you busy, but it keeps you blind too. You're so focused on trying to hold something together that you don't notice it was never holding you. When you stop chasing, you finally get to see the truth without emotion clouding your vision. And truth, even when it hurts, is power. Power is knowing you don't have to beg to be valued. Power is knowing that real connections don't require constant effort to exist. Power is understanding that mutual interest looks like consistency, clarity, and respect, not confusion, excuses, and mixed signals. Let me break this down for you. When you chase, you're always reacting. Reacting to delays, reacting to mood swings, reacting to attention being given and taken away, and and keeps you stuck. But when you stop chasing, you start responding. You move intentionally. You move calmly. You move from self-respect instead of fear. Some people will feel you pulling back and suddenly step forward. Not because they realized your worth, but because they felt the loss of control. And that's when you really see who was benefiting from you chasing. Detachment exposes intentions. It separates genuine connection from convenience. When you stop chasing, you reclaim your time, your focus, your energy. You stop planning your life around other people's availability. You stop waiting for permission to be happy. You start investing that energy back into yourself, your goals, your growth, your peace. And here's something nobody tells you. Chasing keeps you stuck in potential, but stopping puts you in reality. You stop falling in love with what could be and start seeing what actually is. And that clarity, that's freedom. Let me tell you something powerful. The right people don't need to be chased. They meet you halfway. They communicate clearly. They show up consistently. They don't make you question where you stand. And the wrong people, they thrive on being chased. It feeds their ego. It feeds their control. It feeds their comfort at your expense. When you stop chasing, you don't become cold. You become selective. You don't shut down. You level up. You stop running after people and start walking toward your purpose. And purpose has a funny way of attracting the right people without effort. Chasing keeps you in survival mode. Stopping puts you in self-respect mode, and self-respect changes how you speak, how you move, how you decide. You stop tolerating nonsense. You stop overgiving. You stop shrinking yourself to be accepted. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you stop chasing is the moment you remember who you are. You remember that you are not an option. You are not a backup plan. You are not something to be figured out later. You are the prize. And when you stop bleeding your power, life starts flowing to you instead of away from you. Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely because this one is crucial. Peace comes when you let go of what you cannot control. Most people are walking around with their heads spinning, their hearts heavy, and their minds exhausted because they are trying to control things that were never theirs to control in the first place. They're trying to fix people, change outcomes, manipulate situations, or hold on to things that were never meant to be held. And every time you do that, you give away a little bit of your inner calm, your focus, and your energy. Peace is not found in controlling the uncontrollable. Peace is found in letting go. You see, we humans have this natural instinct to resist uncertainty. We want to plan everything. We want to know exactly what people will do, how situations will turn out, and when life will give us what we think we deserve. But let me tell you something. Life doesn't work like that. Life doesn't operate on our timetable, our expectations, or our preferences. Life is going to do what life is going to do. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you step into a state of calm power that nobody can touch. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. Don't confuse detachment with indifference. Detachment is the conscious decision to not allow your happiness, or emotions and your mental state to be dependent on things that are beyond your control. You can care deeply about people, goals, or outcomes, but when you allow them to dictate your peace, you've handed over your power. And power, my friends, is everything. When you hold on to peace instead of control, you operate from strength instead of stress. Most people are walking around carrying emotional baggage because they refuse to release control. They replay arguments, mistakes, and disappointments over and over in their minds. They think if they just figure it out, change it, or convince someone, they will feel better. But here's the harsh truth. You cannot control other people's actions, their thoughts, their words, or their feelings. You can't control the world. The only thing you have control over is your response. And once you accept that, everything changes. Think about it for a second. When you stop trying to control every outcome, suddenly you breathe easier, you sleep better, you stop overthinking every word, every look, every action. You stop asking yourself, did I do enough? Or did I say the right thing? Or will they notice me if I don't make this effort? Because you realize some things were never yours to manage. People will show their intentions. Life will show its path. And you don't need to manipulate it to fit your plan. You just need to be ready to respond wisely when it unfolds. Letting go also allows you to embrace uncertainty with confidence. Most people fear uncertainty because they equate it with danger. But here's the secret: uncertainty is freedom. Freedom from expectations, freedom from trying to control outcomes that were never meant to be controlled, freedom from emotional dependency. When you embrace uncertainty, you stop reacting to life and start flowing with it. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems, and lessons instead of failures. Peace is a natural byproduct of this mindset. Another key point: when you release control, you also stop wasting energy on things that drain you. Think about all the time you spend trying to manipulate situations, convince people, or chase validation. Every minute spent doing that is a minute you're not using to focus on your growth, your goals, your happiness. Letting go redirects your energy back to what actually matters. It allows you to invest in yourself instead of investing in outcomes that were never yours to control. And here's the beauty of it. Letting go doesn't mean life becomes passive. Far from it. It means you act with clarity instead of chaos. You make decisions from a place of calm power instead of emotional reaction. You respond to challenges rather than panic. You invest in people and opportunities that align with your values and let go of the ones that don't, without guilt, without anger, without regret. That's how real peace is built. That's how real power is built. Think about relationships for a moment. People try to hold on to partners, friends, and even family members who don't want to stay. They argue, plead, and compromise their values just to keep someone around. But detachment teaches you a different lesson. If they're meant to stay, they'll stay. If they're not, letting go doesn't break you. It frees you. Peace comes from trusting the process and trusting yourself, not from controlling someone else's choices. The same principle applies to work, to opportunities, to life goals. You can't control every client, every boss, every coworker, or every market trend. You can't control the timing of success, the behavior of competition, or the outcomes of your efforts. But you can control how you respond. You can control your preparation, your effort, your mindset, and your focus. And when you do that without trying to control the uncontrollable, you move with a kind of effortless confidence that attracts results instead of forcing them. Letting go also cultivates emotional resilience. Life is unpredictable. People will disappoint you. Situations will fail. Things will go wrong. But if you've trained yourself to release control over what you cannot manage, disappointment doesn't shatter you. Failure doesn't define you. Mistakes don't ruin you. You simply respond, adjust, and continue forward. Peace becomes your default state because you no longer tie it to outcomes outside your control. And here's the ultimate lesson. When you stop trying to control everything, you open space for the right things to come to you naturally. Opportunities, people, and experiences will align themselves with your life in a way that feels effortless. You stop forcing things that weren't meant to be forced. You stop chasing what wasn't meant to chase you. You start attracting what aligns with your energy, your effort, and your integrity. Peace and power walk hand in hand when you master the art of letting go. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand this deep down in your bones. Letting go is not giving up. It's not quitting. It's not weakness. It's not abandonment. It's strength, wisdom, and emotional intelligence all rolled into one. The moment you accept that you cannot control everything, the moment you release the need to manipulate outcomes, the moment you stop letting external forces dictate your peace, that is the moment you step into a life of true power. So today, I want you to take a look at the areas of your life where you're trying to control what cannot be controlled. Notice the energy you're wasting. Notice the peace you're sacrificing. And make a choice, release it. Let it go. Stop holding on to outcomes, opinions, and expectations that were never yours to manage. Focus on what you can control. Your attitude, your effort, your response, your growth. Do that and watch how life starts to move differently. Watch how your energy returns. Watch how your peace expands. And watch how power, real power, flows naturally into your life. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that too many people fail to understand. The moment you detach, life starts responding to you differently. Most people spend their entire lives reacting, begging, explaining, and compromising, hoping that if they just try hard enough, life or people will bend at its ear will. But let me be honest with you. Life doesn't work that way. No one can hand you respect, love, success, or peace on a silver platter. You earn it by mastering yourself. And detachment is one of the most powerful tools to do just that. Detachment is not about being cold. It's not about shutting people out or refusing to care. It's about controlling what you allow to affect your inner world. It's about refusing to give your power away to situations, people, or outcomes that are not meant for you. When you detach, you stop reacting to every slight, every misunderstanding, every delay. You stop letting other people's actions dictate your emotional state. And when you achieve that level of mastery, the world shifts. People notice it. Life notices it. Energy responds to it. The way you move, speak, and carry yourself begins to change because you're no longer available for chaos to consume you. Let me tell you, detachment forces clarity. Think about it. When you're holding on to someone or something that doesn't serve your purpose, it clouds your judgment. You rationalize bad behavior. You make excuses. You convince yourself that things will change even when the evidence says otherwise. But when you detach, you see everything as it truly is. You stop living in a fantasy of what could be and start observing what is, and that clarity is power. Because decisions made from truth are decisions that move you forward, not decisions that keep you stuck in cycles of disappointment. Detachment also protects your peace. Most people think they need to argue, beg, or fight for respect, love, or opportunity. They don't realize that the struggle itself is often unnecessary. When you detach, you stop exhausting yourself on people who don't appreciate you, situations that won't serve you, or outcomes that aren't guaranteed. You stop negotiating for validation and you start claiming your calm. Peace becomes a choice rather than a consequence of circumstance. You start showing up as someone who cannot be rattled by drama or manipulation. And that, my friends, is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are calm, composed, and self-assured because it reflects strength and stability, qualities everyone wants to be around. Another important thing to understand about detachment is that it allows you to operate from intention instead of reaction. When you are emotionally tied to outcomes, every action becomes a desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable. You overthink, over-explain, over-apologize, and overcommit. You're constantly trying to force situations to go your way. But when you detach, you act intentionally. You think clearly. You choose where to invest your time, energy, and emotions. You prioritize your growth, your peace, and your goals above everything else. You start acting from a place of power rather than fear. Detachment also teaches you patience in ways you've never imagined. Waiting becomes less stressful. Silence becomes less threatening. Life starts to unfold without panic or anxiety. You begin to understand that what is meant for you will come in its own time. People will act as they should. Opportunities will present themselves. Doors will open and some will close, but you remain centered regardless. You don't chase, you don't push, you don't manipulate. You simply allow life to reveal itself while you move with intentionality. And that is a rare kind of freedom that many never experience. I want you to think about relationships for a second. When you detach, you stop trying to force people to love, respect, or understand you. You stop justifying yourself to those who are unwilling to see your value. You stop wasting emotional energy on those who are inconsistent or unreliable. Instead, you focus on your growth, your self-worth, and your peace. And when you do that, you become untouchable. Because people can sense desperation, but they are drawn to confidence and composure. Detachment doesn't push people away. It attracts the right ones and repels the ones who aren't meant to be in your life. Detachment works the same way with work, goals, and opportunities. You don't have to chase every lead or overexert yourself to prove your worth. You do your part. You show up consistently. You act with integrity and effort. And then you step back, allowing the results to manifest naturally. You stop obsessing over recognition, promotions, or validation, and you focus on mastery and progress. The moment you detach from needing immediate results, your work improves, your creativity expands, and your energy is preserved. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. Detachment is not a passive state. It's an active form of self-respect. It's the act of choosing end yourself over chaos, peace over reaction, and clarity over confusion. It's the refusal to be manipulated by fear, anxiety, or uncertainty. And when you embrace it, life responds to you differently. People respond to you differently. Situations unfold differently. Doors that once seemed closed open effortlessly. The noise of life diminishes and your focus sharpens. You stop being pulled into unnecessary drama and you start walking a path of intentionality, strength, and calm confidence. Detachment also allows you to experience life more fully because you are no longer tied to outcomes. You can celebrate successes without arrogance and face failures without despair. You can love without fear, give without expectation, and live without the constant need for validation. You begin to understand that your happiness is not in other people's hands, it's in your own, and that understanding is priceless. The most powerful people I've ever met are not the ones who control everything around them. They are the ones who have mastered themselves. They are the ones who act from calm, intentional power. They are the ones who have detached from what they cannot control and focused on what they can, their energy, their effort, and their growth. That is real influence. That is real strength. That is the ultimate power move. So I want you to ask yourself today, where are you giving away your energy? Where are you overreacting to things outside your control? Where are you sacrificing your peace trying to force outcomes that aren't yours to manage? Detachment is the answer. Release control, focus on what you can control, and watch how your life starts to respond differently. When you master detachment, you master yourself. And when you master yourself, nothing in this world can shake your power. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this: the ultimate power move is not about dominating others. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's about controlling yourself. Detachment is the tool, peace is the prize, and power is the result. Walk into your life with that mindset and watch everything begin to shift. Life responds to those who refuse to be manipulated by chaos, those who protect their peace, and those who act intentionally. Detachment is your key, and the moment you use it, everything changes.